MedBix Webcast is a new kind of healthcare media channel to break the silo mentality and foster interdisciplinary thinking. Our mission is to fill that gap and to create a curiosity through different lenses, tapping the passion that guided the historical figures in medicine and bringing present-day groundbreaking research to the front lines. We interview physicians and leaders in the industry about present-day healthcare challenges on our live programming. Hey, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. Wish you all a Happy New Year. This is my first live show today. This is for this year. That's a premiere show, so I'm very excited about it this year. I got an awesome guest lined up for this month and next month. In fact, all booked. So thank you. Thank you all. The doctors loving my show. That's an indication. The thing is that the show is a very interdisciplinary field, so I present different topics. Today, my guest is a very interesting. I tell you about she's a board certified dermatologist. And she's a 5'2" and she played a basketball. Can you believe that? I'm from Atlanta. I saw all the basketball players 7 feet, 6'6.5". So she played for Columbia University. She is a board certified dermatologist. We're going to talk with her. After that, I'm going to present a topic on my guest's parents came as immigrants, as a doctor, immigrants. And then I used to place a lot of J1, H1 doctors in this country. So I know the immigrant physicians go through the process. So actually, in 1885, how the two woman doctors traveled to the United States and how they survived. I'm going to tell you that story. It's a very inspiring story of the two women from India. One woman from India, Japan, and Syria. There's 3 women who came from India, came from different parts of the countries for the war, and then they came to the Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. I'll talk about that. It's going to be very exciting how they, with the minimum resources they have at that time. It's an amazing for me. 20-year-old girls come down by themselves in a ship. That's going to be an exciting story I'm going to present. But without further ado, let me introduce you, Dr. Manju Dawkins, a name. So she's a board certified dermatologist. She is presently practicing in Los Angeles area. She is going to join with us, and then she played a basketball, as I say. She's a 5'2", and she became a captain of the basketball in Columbia. Can you believe that? That is something inspiration to all the women, all the short people, at least. My nieces some of them are not that tall, so there is kind of inspiration for all of them. Then she is a mother of 2 children, and she went through, I don't know how a lot of physicians complain, I don't have time, I cannot do a lot of things, there's a lot of constraint with the time and my job. But with all these things, she became an entrepreneur. She jumped into the entrepreneurship. It is really, we need to understand that experience, and other doctors can follow that experience. It's very, very, very interesting. Well, without further ado, let me bring Manju Dawkins to the front, to the stage. Welcome, Manju, Dr. Dawkins. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me something a little bit about your background. I gave something, but I'm not sure. Give me some more of your background, if you don't mind.
Sure. I grew up I was born in Washington, D.C., and grew up in the Maryland area, and went to the same school from nursery through 12th grade. So I think I lived a pretty sheltered, small life. Then went off to New York to go to undergrad at Columbia, and I walked onto the basketball team, like you mentioned. I was a teacher for a year, actually, in the New York City public schools. So I did that, and then I went on to medical school at University of Maryland, did a year of research in nanotechnology, and then did my dermatology residency at Albert Einstein in the Bronx. And I know your love of Albert Einstein, so.
Yeah, what I said. Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you a question. Then, your parents are doctors also, right? And both your parents are doctors, right? You came from a very medical family, medical. You're surrounded by medical community, right?
Yes, my father is a family practitioner, and my mother is in physical medicine and rehab. She just
So,
retired.
so you have a brother. He said that you have a brother. He's in films. Just tell us a little bit about it. Your family. So your
Yeah,
children. You have two children. Can you give us a little bit background about that?
yep. I have two girls. They are 13 and 9 years old, and they are just the greatest teachers. And yes, they're amazing. Um, and it's actually great. They go to the same school that my husband grew up going to. So in some ways, they have this kind of same small life that we both grew up with in some ways. So yeah, everything
What,
is because of.
what inspired you to go to the dermatology residency? Who gave you that? What is inside of you that going to the dermatology side?
Yeah, I actually, when I started medical school, I thought anything but dermatology. I didn't really know anything about it, but I was like, oh, it sounds like there's a lot of pus and blood involved. No, thank you. But I finally was able to do a rotation in it, and kind of late in the process. I think it was my fourth year, and I was like, this is awesome. Like it's kind of, we're nerds, you know what I mean? It's all about diagnosis and like figuring out what's really going on. And there's a mix of everything. So you can do, a little bit of surgery if you want to. It just never gets boring. There's cosmetics if you want to do that. There's pathology. So it's so much fun. And I got lucky that I was exposed to it. And to be honest, I'm lucky that I even got to be a dermatologist, because I didn't match into dermatology the first time around. Um I don't know what's happening these days, but in those days, like, there's match day is a whole big thing, and you have to gotta get up in front of your class. And it was honestly so embarrassing and mortifying to not have matched, into the residency that I wanted to. But thanks to the encouragement of my husband, who's also my co-founder, um, he was like, "You're going to do this for the rest of your life." Or so I thought. You're going to do this for your rest of your life. You do what you want to do. You got to follow your heart. So I took a year off, and thankfully uh, got a spot.
So, Manju, what are the typical cases you see in dermatology side? Eczema is everybody knows about that. I went through in my own family members. Going through. It's a nagging problem for them. So, tell us a little bit about that. What kind of cases you see in the dermatology cases are?
Yeah, I worked in a lot of different settings. So where it's been basically been in New York and Los Angeles, and so there's different kinds of cases everywhere you go. But yes, lots of eczema, psoriasis, acne, skin cancer. A lot more skin cancer here in Los Angeles than I used to see in New York, actually. But um, and then there are these crazy esoteric things that you just think you would never see in real life, and then there they are in front of your eyes. Um, it just never gets boring, because there's so much we are still learning about the skin and the human body, quite frankly.
So, do we know something? All the statistics are very well understood about the skin cancer. A lot of people talk about it because sun exposure and all those things. Do you so because you are the direct experience with all those skin cancer patients? Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's just remarkably common. And I'll just share a story, because I think, anyone can get skin cancer. And the one, of course, that we worry about the most is melanoma. Um, and you know it can happen in any skin type. So any color of skin, anyone can get skin cancer. And I will just share, I hope he doesn't mind, but my father had a basal cell carcinoma near his ear, which we were all shocked by, because it's not like he you know spent his life on a farm or anything like that. So anyway, so just a word of warning: anyone can get skin cancer, you know make sure you're getting checked.
So that is a very the most of the cases are in people think dermatologists are looking skin looking as a cosmetic procedure,
Mm.
but is actually they see a lot more pathology in that sense, right? You
Yeah.
see a lot more skin cancers, type patients, and all those things. So while your journey going through the journey, why did you move? What inspired you to move from East Coast to the West Coast? You all your life is in the East Coast, and what made you decide to move to West Coast?
Yeah, well, I guess it goes back a little further because I met my husband while I was in college in New York. And even back when we were like 19 or whatever, he said, "Oh, I'm going back to California. I'll probably marry someone from California." I know he was always going back. And so, anyways, by the time my older daughter was around kindergarten age, we just thought, okay, it's now or never, because we want to uproot her from school and everything like that. So it just so happened, jobs lined up, and we just made the jump. And I love it. I love it. It's so
Yeah.
beautiful, nature
The
everywhere.
once you move in, that's what I did with my daughter. Actually, she moved here. She go to the boot camp for the programming, and then when she decided to, she saw California, San Francisco. She loved it, and then eventually, when she got the job and she moved there, she left CNN and joined here. Actually, the company.
Wow.
Yeah, she enjoys. She said, "I will never go back to." The biggest challenge, as you know, traveling to East Coast is a big challenge in seeing the parents and their relatives are there. My son is there. The same thing. It's just some of the challenges. So while you are going through, you're a mother of two children, as you said, and then you have a job full time. There's a board certified dermatologist.
Not full
How did
time.
you? What inspired you to get into the physician entrepreneurship? What you thought about it actually? What caused? What is that inspired you?
Well, I definitely never wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was just not ever on my radar. Some people like knew when they were 6 years old that no, that wasn't me. But I did know I wanted to be a physician my whole life, pretty much. So, but then it was more just a function of seeing a problem and thinking I could help to do something about it. And I would say the seed was planted when I was a dermatology resident, when I had my first daughter. And when they're about a month old, you take them in for their first vaccines. And I just was so horrified by her reaction. When she got stuck, she looked up at me and was like, how could you let that happen to me? It was just betrayal. Like, what was that? She was bewildered by my betrayal. And I just felt like, what was that? What did I do? And it was like this first moment of broken trust between, mother and child. And then, when I reflected on it later, it's like also that first moment of broken trust between physician and patient, right? Because she doesn't know what's coming, and all of a sudden, yeah. So that was
Such
kind of
an
the first
amazing
moment that I thought,
story. Such an
yeah,
amazing story.
it's
Yeah.
and everyone, not everyone, but many people have experienced that same pain as a parent, to watch your kids suffering. It's just, we humans we can't tolerate our own children suffering. And so then, I was like, what are we doing? Like, I'm a doctor and I can't do anything to protect her. But, that's the thing, is my training in dermatology, we prescribe a medicine called EMLA, which is lidocaine and prilocaine. It's a combination drug that, it requires a prescription, but luckily I had a lot of friends around who could help me with the prescription. But there's all kinds of issues with it. You have to put a big glob of the medicine on. You have to occlude it with saran wrap. It has to stay in place for 2 to 3 hours for it to work its best. It melts at skin temperature, so it moves away from where you're trying to numb. And, it has this risk of methemoglobinemia, which can be fatal in infants. So there were all these issues with it, but I felt comfortable just given my training. Um, but thought, like, years later, was like, we have to make this accessible to everyone. You know what I mean? This is something that affects, like I was saying, like every person.
But
uh,
before you say, I wanted to tell you something interesting.
yeah,
What you said, it is really caught my, just it took me. It's called broken trust. He said that the pain created the broken trust. That's a very interesting analogy. I never really connected those two kind of things. It's very interesting where you connected not only mother and child broken trust with the pain. I can feel that. Just when I was taking my children one time, I had the same similar story. In fact, then broken trust with the doctor and a patient. He said that
yeah.
that's a very very powerful way of inspiring you to. That's a greatest inspiration story for a lot of people. I mean, that's great. Yeah, go ahead. Please continue.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you stopped on that point, because I think we kind of overlook it a lot as physicians. Because especially the way kind of corporatized healthcare has moved us, we have less and less time with patients. And so, and we're under pressure to kind of see more and do more in short times. And so, there's no time to establish kind of understanding and compassion with the person in front of you sometimes. And it's not any of the people's fault. Like everybody is trying to do their best, but, there's just limited resources and time. And so, um, and I think, we use needle, like every medical procedure virtually involves needles. And so we kind of just ignore that part and say, oh, this is part of, we don't even think about what it's actually doing to people. And what I've seen, I mean, I graduated medical school in 2006, but I've seen that the change in medicine over time and even the change in how patients respond to us. And there's so much distrust. Like sometimes I feel like, you remember in the 80s, like lawyers were the butt of all the jokes. Now it's So, yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the things I'm really hoping comes out of this whole venture is like just to reestablish the trust between healthcare people and patients. So,
You mentioned just before we came on online that you mentioned your grandfather is a doctor in India. My father is a doctor, and he also doing a lot of he's doing homeopathy, and also he did some allopathy English medicine. And I used to see the needles. Those are like 5 inches, 3 inches big. Those are needles. Used to be scare the hell out of everybody there. So tell us a little bit of that experience. Why if you see India that if you can translate that pain. So
I
yes,
couldn't
Tim,
tolerate it.
you started the product Thimble. So tell us a little bit of story that why what took you and what is the way to discover uh, to solve the problem of the needle pain.
Yeah. So, then started to look into the problem, years later when I was like, hey, I think we can do something about this. And lo and behold, in one of my old dermatology textbooks, there was this graph that was like, I think the answer is right here. It just showed the pharmacokinetics of EMLA and what happens when you use different, anyways, how to speed penetration of anesthetic into the skin. Sorry. And so then started looking at, wait, this is so obvious, right? Like this must have been done before. Why, what am I missing? There must be somebody's already done this. But then found that yes, people have tried to solve the problem, but in a little bit of in different ways that I think had roadblocks, right? Like there was a prescription solution that I think would have been really helpful for people, but it's really hard to change prescribing practices.
If you
And
want to take a glass of water, that's fine. You just
oh, thank you.
yeah.
Little hot water here. Thank you. Um, I was sick for 2 weeks during the break, but anyways, um,
What is the name Thimble means? Just that's
oh
also
yeah,
you can tell. You can give us a little bit of background about that.
yeah. So thimble, the thimble is what you use when you're sewing to um, protect your fingers from the needle itself. And I always thought it was to be used to protect the needle that's opposing, like when you're pulling the needle through. But actually, it is used to advance the needle also. And so that's how I see it. Um, in our company, we're trying to advance the use of all these wonderful healthcare advances. You know what I mean? We have all these amazing drugs and and vaccines and this and that, but there is a barrier that is preventing people from using them. And it's very simple. It's just that pain that, is the delivery mechanism. You know what I mean? So how can we make these needle procedures a little bit easier and a little more tolerable for people? Um, I think Thimble kind of captures that. It's a little protection.
Maybe can you give me some statistics about, how many? I was shocked to know the number of people scared, even the adults. I saw. You have you seen there is a short movie. There is a guy in Washington or someplace that during the COVID he was acting like he's a 50-year-old man acting as a CEO acting like a child running around.
Yeah.
They were trying to catch him. So
Well,
tell
that's
us a
one of
little
the
bit about the
things.
pain of the fear of needles.
Yes, it is a huge problem. And the most recent studies show that actually over 60% of adults has needle fear. And it's the 2012 study about children showed that about 66% of kids is afraid of needles. And let's be honest, nobody likes them. But the majority of people feel a true fear. And I'm glad you brought up that, the point about that big CEO person. I mean, I think the thing is that what we need to remember is we as human beings do not like sharp metal objects coming at us, right? Like that is being human because it is considered a threat. Well, and we have to remember what pain is. It is a teacher that tells us to move away from whatever that stimulus was. But in the case of these needles, right, this is not a danger to you. And it takes a different level of reasoning to say, okay, this is not to hurt me. This is actually to help me. And sometimes that fear response overrides that. And I also want, I really hope to have a little bit more compassion for people around the whole fear of needles too, because I think, we tend to kind of shame people and make fun of, for example,
Yeah,
those people running around. I mean, frankly, I was
guilty
that
as
young
charged
girl
here.
running around.
Guilty.
Yeah, but like it's a fear response, right? And so we have to have a little bit more understanding and realize like it's not just me, it's everywhere.
There's the common understanding is the children gets they're the ones who cry, and then
Yeah.
everybody thinks that.
Yeah.
But a lot of adults and children both are actually a large number of people. That the statistics is staggering numbers you're giving us. That is so nobody has taken that it's so obvious. How
Yeah.
come nobody did that, and you are the first one to jump in to solve the problem?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
That's a good
I
question.
mean,
I
what I
could,
do think, what I do see is that,
that's a
well, first
blessing
of
for
all, there
you.
have been people who have tried, and there's been lots of people. Actually, they happen to be women who have made advances in the treatment of needle procedures. So, for example, a pharmacist out of Canada, Dr. Anna Taddeo, has done tons of research on this, and she spent like at least 20 years researching this problem. And so she's quietly been chipping away at this. And Dr. Amy Baxter developed the Buzzy, which is a vibratory device and cooling device to help distract from the pain. So there have been people working on it. Um, I don't know why it hasn't taken off, but what I do think and what I do see is that the problem of needle phobia has been really rising at a precipitous rate, right? And
What is the reason you think?
I think there are a lot of reasons. Um, one of which is we just get a whole lot more needles than we ever did. So, like when I was a kid, I got 6 shots before the age of 6. My children have gotten 36 shots each in that same time, which is
Unbelievable.
great, right? Because we have all these advances in medicine. That's what I mean. Like we've come a long way in medicine. So let's make it more palatable for people to use all of these technological advances that we've come up with. So I think that's one of the reasons, because each of those needle procedures can be pretty traumatic depending on the circumstances, right? Like if the healthcare person in front of me is like rushed and has just gotten yelled at by their manager and this, that, like that's going to set me off, and the whole experience degrades at that point. And so anyways, that's what I'm
You
trying to
came, yeah. So go ahead, continue. You came up with a brilliant idea, Timble. Can you show me that how the product looks like? Do you have that in
Sure.
mind? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Thimble, we are a whole platform, a comprehensive platform to alleviate needle pain and anxiety, and it starts with the Prepare Patch, which is not out yet, so I don't have one of those to show you, but that's applied before the shot to prevent the pain. And what we have done a soft launch of is our Recover Patch. So it looks like this. Oops, there we go. And it's actually plant-based, patent-pending patch, and so you just put it on right after your needle procedure. So let's say you have an IV placement, put that on right afterwards. And you leave it on for up to 2 days, and it helps alleviate the soreness, ache, bruising. Um, uh, it even helps with the muscle tenderness that you get after vaccines and things like that. So it's just helpful. It's safe, and it helps. One thing that I think a real advantage is, especially after all the pediatric vaccines, a lot of the times parents feel like they should give their children Tylenol and ibuprofen to alleviate the pain that happens afterwards. But I feel like if we can have a plant-based way of treating that pain locally, it's a whole lot safer than using a drug in our kids.
Manju, what is the process it took you to create that patch? Creating that actual product, the
Yeah.
patch. What the process took you? How does it happen? Just did you connect with the lab, or how did you
Yeah.
do that?
Well, actually, and I forgot to mention that an important part of this whole solution is that it's not just these physical products, because it's about understanding the problem at its root, which is that pain is not just physical, it is also emotional and
Yeah.
psychological. So we have to address those aspects, and that's why the patches are paired with our app that puts together all the research-backed techniques and tools to lessen needle pain and anxiety. So, um,
That's
so
why you won the award for the American Academy of Pain Medicine. They gave you the award for that. You are the winner of that. I didn't. In the background, I can see that it is missing right
oh
now
yeah,
on the
let me
side of that. Yeah, you are a winner. You can show the camera there. You are the winner of that one. That's a congratulations on that.
yeah,
So
thank you.
tell you that the process is a just that process is very interesting. How from nowhere you need to find a lab and then
Yeah.
develop this whole process. It's an interesting journey to go through.
Yeah, it has not been a quick journey, I will tell you that. Um,
Of course not.
But and that award was like it was amazing to be validated by, an academic society like that it was amazing. And for them to, to give it to a dermatologist alone, I was shocked. And then also to think about acute needle pain as an issue that's worth treating, I think was really, they have a lot of foresight to be thinking about, and I really appreciate the support that they've given over the past year. But yeah, I mean, so started with the idea, tried to understand the problem a little better, researched what was out there already, tried to figure out where maybe some of the things that didn't resonate with everyone, or maybe it was price, maybe it was convenience, like what was missing, and then came up with a plan with like, okay, how are we going to try to solve this problem? And then it was a whole lot of googling. Who, yeah, who are the research organizations that can do this? Like who knows, you know, you know, drug and
You
adhesive patches.
actually the product. You're not doing some software. It's a product, right?
Yeah,
It requires a
yeah,
lot more involved.
yeah, and I think what it has taught me also is that you cannot do anything alone. You have to rely on the people around you, and I really do believe that this thimble has been born of this whole community. Like, you know what I mean? You have to rely, and then through this process, the world opened up. People are just willing to help. People want to help. People want to see, progress, so anyway, so yeah, found a fantastic contract research organization who did the development alongside us, and yeah, learned a lot along the way, figured out about the patent process, and
Yeah.
then manufacturing, and then it's been a whole journey.
Oh, yeah, yeah, tremendous work. I can nothing but admiration for you. You know that I'm going to go through, your presentation. That is actually your parents what they kind of went through a similar kind of journey, but it's a little bit much more harder. The
Yeah,
journey the woman went through in 1885. I'm going to present that and come back. When I come back, I will ask you our Thimble website and what are the what you're trying to do, what is the future, and are you trying to raise money, what are all those things. I'll ask you when I get back, and you and me can watch together. It's a show, and if we can jump in anytime, you're free to comment anytime you on the show when I do that. Okay.
wonderful.
Okay, that's a Manju Dawkins. She's a board certified dermatologist. She's an innovator, mother, everything. Hats off to her. But anyway, I'm going to tell a story about the first foreign medical FMG. They call FMG and foreign medical graduates. These are the first women came to the United States from these countries. The first woman from those countries. Let us talk about in 1885. Okay, I tell you what the situation in 1885. Oh, let me bring both of us to the under the bottom of this one. Yeah, correct. Okay, so we can watch together. So this is a picture was taken in 1885 on the October 10th, 1885, the graduation party. They took this picture. Can you believe that that picture? That almost you got it painted, or I don't know how they did that. They're all 19 to 29-year-old. Most of them are 20-year-old. They accept, the Japanese woman. There's from India, Japan, and Syria. They all came from three different countries. In fact, that is a picture started the whole thing. So let me give you 1885. I want to give you what is the situation in the 1885. The life in America in 1885. Statue of Liberty just arrived in the United States. AT&T was incorporated in the 1885. I want to give you some idea of what that 1885 looks like. Okay, so then it is a there is a transportation. There is no automobiles. You have to go by cars, buggies, and trains. And so trains are, trains if you go long distance, or the local auto, the horses. That's horse buggies. That's what the transportation is. Slavery just ended at the time. Is not that far from the ending of slavery. It's a very close to that time. And then no indoor plumbing. A lot of people has to go. Woman has to go outside. This is a big problem. Those kind of things. So this in 1885 in America was that is the situation in America. So at the time, the young man, this is Thomas Edison, he started a company called Edison Illuminating Company in New Jersey with a $1 million. That's like 1 million in 1885, probably 250 million now. He's a very rich guy. He came from a rich family. So he invested the first electric lines. He was doing first electric lines. He's putting there in the New Rochelle, New Jersey. He was deploying first electric lines. There is no electricity at the time. In the most of the houses don't have electricity. The first village, first town, they are putting the electricity in the New Rochelle, New Jersey. Then that is Thomas Edison's young man at the time. So I just giving you what is this. That's a National Board of Health. There is no NIH. There's no. There's a National Board of Health was there. They started in 1879 and 1883 they ended up. That is at the time there was no board at the time after 1885. Kind of forming a new board at the time. NIH is being formed at the time. This is a very typical third world country diseases in this country: cholera, typhus, malaria, all the yellow fever, or cough, whooping cough, tuberculosis. All these diseases are very prevalent in the United States during that time. So that is uh, I the medications, yeah, for the pain, they can see that, she's talking about pain. They were using cocaine as a pain at the time. They're using a lot of barks and plant-based medicines. So these are all willow bark for those kind of things. Camphor, is very common. I went to still people use the camphor. Can you believe that? I went to South Carolina with my ex-wife's place. They use a camphor for some of the treatments. Very interesting. So all those things still somewhere existing. So that is the 1883 and 1885. So that's with the Johnson and Johnson came up with the 1885, 1886. They came up with the first, she's talking about patches. She came up with so the first patch came in 1886 with Johnson and Johnson. That's a patch. Actually, the role. Actually, it's not. I used to have that role. My father used to use that role. My father was a doctor. He used to use that role. I can see that role. That's not that far from there in 1970s. That's still that was kind of a role was there. From Johnson and Johnson was very well known in India actually at the time. Okay, so these are the Robert Wood Johnson is the one who started the Johnson and Johnson company. There are three brothers. He is the most famous guy. He is the one who is the scientist actually who did the band-aids. So that is the time. So she was Dr. Ann Preston. She started a first women's medical school in Pennsylvania, where the Drexel campus is there right now. That is the first women's medical school in the that's a Market Street. I went there to the Market Street. I can see the Drexel campus. Is that now the new library is exactly that women's college of the first women's college in the United States. That Dr. Ann Preston was the founder of that school. So there's a the woman I was talking about. She was born in 1865. Her name is Anandi Joshi. She's a Maharashtrian woman. She's from Mumbai, close to Pune. Pune is in between Hyderabad and Mumbai. It's like 300 miles from 200 miles from Mumbai, and she came from a kind of a sama town. It's like Is not a village. Is a big town, and not big as big as Mumbai, but it's kind of a big town. 1885, 1865, she was born. She was the first one of the ones coming from India. From It's a big news in India. It was all the publications are there. All the we are under the British rule. Remember that
Mhm.
we are under the British rule. It is all that's we are under Victoria. Queen Victoria was the is the queen at the time. Yeah. So then, second one, she is from Syria, Sabat Islambuli. She came from Damascus, Syria. She's a Kurdish Jewish woman. She's the second woman that came at the same time. She was born in 1867. She's all 20 years old. Can you believe that? Hardly 19 and 20. The third one she came from is Kei Wakami. Kei Wakami. She's from Tokyo, Japan. She's the oldest woman among all of them. She was born in 1859. Okay, so these three women made a long journey through ships to the United States. They came through. They came with a lot of Christian missionaries. In fact, most of them they converted into they didn't follow the Christianity, but they came with the Christian missionaries. They traveled to the ships and came to the United States. Think about that during those times. What kind of it took a month and a half, 2 months. Life in Women's Medical College in 1885 is fun. Is all the girls, having a good time. They're playing with that's they're all the same as the teenagers playing around. So that's what they're doing. I don't know whether they played basketball or not, but they were doing similar stuff. That's a picture from 1865, 85. In fact, that is in the Women's Medical School. They're all having a good time. So they were, very surprisingly, the coursework, I saw that, very surprised them. Still, it didn't change much. 1885, physiology, anatomy, the pharmacology, all of them are more or less they divided much more further. But the basic tenet of the whole medical sciences are still same. And these are the courses. Hygiene is the biggest, one of the biggest thing is hygiene at the time. Hygiene is a big. They were talking about washing hands, and then the first time they realized that it's something that bacteria can causing a lot of infections. Virus. These are the just cleanliness, hygiene is a bigger topic. You know, Benjamin Rush used to go around and talk, and people used to attend his. He was one of the pioneers of the Constitution. He used to talk about the hygiene things, and then people used to attend. They used to get the tickets actually to go attend these seminars. So they had a good time. They're playing with the skeletons and all those kind of things. These girls, so they're not afraid of In life in college is as fun as they can get. It's a wonderful time for those. Where that's the only place women can go to the school. Actually, there is no other place there in the world women are not allowed to go to even schools. This is the time that this is the only school they're allowed to go, because the only they can do that is OBGY, actually OBGYN practices, that kind of thing, woman's health. That's the reason they took it. Otherwise, even that was not even would not have been there. So women are cruel. We did a lot of bad things. So they're all fun with skeletons. They're playing around with it. They had a great time. So this is a story of the Women's Medical School. You have a very interesting history there. So C-section is a big debate at the time. 1885 is a natural selection. Is a that no anesthesia at the time. Can you believe that? No sterile equipment. They were doing that directly. The C-section is the biggest debate whether it should go natural or you can do that. It is a kind of a people debating about it. A lot of religious people involved. Christian preachers and all of them. Some people on one side, other people are. They said that it's bad things and good things. It is interesting kind of a time.
Mhm.
So the science was, facing first time the religious upon religious things. The science and is the first time the religion and science conflicted there in the that is the first time we really took a big conflict how to save. So mother's life is much more precedence over that's took over, and slowly Americans believed in that science, and then they did C-sections after that. So actually, so she wrote a obstetrics among the Hindu women. She wrote a thesis. Anandi Joshi wrote a thesis about it. She wrote a very powerful thesis. In fact, she says that we cannot ignore Ayurveda. So the Manju was telling her grandfather is Ayurveda and homeopathy doctor. She was talking about this is the traditions of India. Ayurveda came from thousands of years. You cannot ignore it. That's what she says. There's already that kind of a clinical trials done. She wrote, we're 20-year-old. She wrote, you have to read her thesis. Oh my God, I wrote a excerpt of the thesis. It's a brilliant English. She spoke English very well, actually. So that I tell you how we know about it. But she writes very well. She writes a lot of letters to Indian magazines, and she said she wrote a lot of letters to Indian Maharashtrian magazine, and then she wrote in English and Marathi, and she's a very prolific writer, and she express, and then also she has a host family. She wrote a lot of letters to the host family in New Jersey, where she came, where she was received in New Jersey. She wrote a lot of letters to her. Those are all documented. So
Wow.
one of the prolific writer, for 20-year-old. Can you believe that? That is very interesting. The mind was unbelievable for those times.
Mhm.
Then that is a first of that they are all graduation party picture. That is was they got the first MD. They're all first MDs. All the three women are the first MDs in the United States, in the foreign medical graduates.
Amazing.
Yeah. So the life after the college, and the she was, Dr. Anand Joshi was she was sick already. She was feeling she's doing a lot of cough, and then she got stricken by tuberculosis. They believe it is tuberculosis, and she was going to she went to Boston to get a 1 year of training, external training, but she was extremely sick and she could not able to finish it up, and then she moved back to India, and then she went to Pune. That is she went back to Pune. She was actually got a letter from the Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, actually, Queen Victoria, sorry, Queen Victoria. Queen Elizabeth is not even born. Gandhi is a young Gandhi was not a good, no Gandhi. He was a college student, it's a high school student. He's in high school. Gandhi is no Gandhi at the time. So he's in high school. So think about that the times. So she went back to India. She was offered a professorship, the kind of a teaching thing up there in the English school, because we are under British rule. But at that time she was extremely ill, and unfortunately at the very young age she died. At the age of
Mm.
25 she died. Can you believe? So that is the she's life after death is that she died at the very young age, 25. So that's what she said, that I did everything I could do. She said that.
Mhm.
Life after college about Islambuli, she went back to Syria. My understanding, it's not a much documented there for her, but she got married and moved to the Egypt, Cairo, Egypt,
Mm.
and then she practices there with all the for the gynecology practices and taking care of the babies and all those things. But I'm not sure there is not a documentation. There's not a much of a documentation about Islambuli, but she's also died after 1941. She died.
Mm.
Then the lot of other history is Okami as a very interesting history. She was kind of a Japanese woman. She stayed in the United States for a while. She went to the training in New England, Boston. Then she went to the Chicago, and she got some external training. That's like a residency program. There is no residency at the time. It's called externalship, I think. So she went back to, she's a Christian. She turned into a Christian. She went back to Japan. she was kind of discriminated heavily in Japan because she became a Christian,
Mm.
and she faced a lot of discrimination in Japan, even though she started the Zeki hospital in the English, the British kind of hospital. She started there in Japan, and then a lot of people go there. She's a famous, well known, but she was very well criticized because she converted into Christianity. That was big challenges for her during that time. But she lived long. She's lived very, very long. She's 90 years old, I think, almost. Uh, I'm not sure. I cannot compute it right now. My eyes are. So she lived a long time, longer than all of them. So she died in 1941. She started actually a hospital. She's well known, and there was a lot of documentation on her. But the most important documentation came for so I was telling you when the Anand Joshi has the Indian United States was fascinated by Indian fashions at the time. She was wearing a nose ring and all the bangles and then wearing a sari, and
Mm.
it was a big news in the United States. A lot of press came after her, and then she was publishing and she's talking to the press, and then Gandhi was no Gandhi. I told you it was very, and then Indian cuisines are a little bit they're getting familiar with the Indian turmeric. So the Manju is going to talk about that a little bit about their patch, but the turmeric and all these things they come to know about through her. Actually, United States first they know at the time British and Bengali woman. They don't know she's not a Bengali woman. She's from southern India. So they're talking about me and Manju and all of them of southern India. So they're talking about her, and she was a big attraction for the press during the time in 1885. So her name is Caroline Doll. She wrote her autobiography on the Joshi. On the Joshi, she wrote the biography on her. So that's why we know a lot of documentation. She's a feminist. She's a Washington, very socialite. Caroline Doll. She's a well-known. She invited actually Joshi to. She knows Joshi. She met Joshi several times, and then she invited her to her house, and then so there was a phones came out at the time. She was saying she got 50 calls in one day. That's like a lot of calls when she was visiting. Everybody wants to meet Anandi Joshi because they want to see her dress and then saris and then all the bangles and the jewelry. Is very interesting. That's what they what. But she was very confident woman. For 20-year-old woman, 21-year-old woman, she was extremely confident. She was writing a letters and to the press. Oh, unbelievable! So Caroline Dahl really documented a lot of story about her. So she is a because she's that's one thing that actually there is a professor Sarah Kapit. I spoke with her actually. Sarah Ras Kapit. She's a professor now. She wrote a thesis on these women, all three women in the woman in the Women's College of Life in the Women's College of Pennsylvania. She wrote that life. It's a very excellent thesis. She wrote a lot about them. She was really one thing she was mentioning in their thesis was how accommodating that Joshi was, how she balanced between the Western medicine. She did not give up, just blindly believed everything, and then she was strike a balance between the Western medicine and Eastern medicine. That's what the Manju is doing now. It's actually that's why this is a great story. In fact, it's an inspiring story for people like Manju. She was a strike a very strong balance between these strongly. There's a lot of this Western medicine blindly believe everything and everything ignore it. That is not the way. So we're going to talk about the Manju about that. She mentioned actually already about that, and we'll talk about that. But Sarah Ras Kapit, she mentioned in her thesis how this woman balances that back home cultures and then Western medicine. There is a lot of resistance from here. They say that you don't know what you're talking about. They got some kind of resistance from here locally. They said that all your traditions are primitive and all those things, but they kept They kind of kept their culture, and they were very firm in their beliefs and certain beliefs. That's a very fascinating journey to them, in fact. So Indian, there is now, so that started with the Indian um, migration to the first woman who migrated to India. So they migrated from the United States and went back, the foreign medical graduate. Now more than 100,000 doctors from India now. The Syria, there's a three countries they came from, right? Indians are more than 100,000 now. It's almost you see Indian doctor. There is no place you don't can't see Indian doctors. Manju's both parents are Indian doctors. Syria has a 6,500 doctors from Syria. That's where Islambuli came from. Japan is, I'm not sure. I could not able to get the. So I contacted Japan Society of North American Japan American Medical Society, and then Indians have a big association. API is called American Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. That's usually they get together every year. Actually, the woman is actually president, Anjana Samdar. It's a good friend of mine. So, and then I'm going to bring her Anjana one day to then there's the yeah. So there's a lot of people came from Japan. You can actually Google it and then find out from Syria and Japan medical societies. Syrian American Medical Association is there, and you can meet. I used to place a lot of J1 doctors, so I know that J1 doctors came from here. They need to work in rural areas, underserved areas. So I used to take doctors came from they used to go to residency here, and then I used to take them and place them in different places in this country. So I traveled extensively in the small rural places. Bradshaw, West Virginia. There's no water there. You need to carry your own water there. I went to the every small village in the United States. So I placed a lot of these doctors, lots of hundreds of doctors I placed. I found the jobs for them. So they're now all of them are full-time employees, and they're employing other people now, other J1 doctors. That's a good news. So it's a big shift in the world. Diaspora became a bigger is a part of the American stream. So Edison illuminating company. That's the one who invented the bulb. As you know that he invented the light bulb. Then he became one of the that company, $40 billion company it became. Now, Con Edison is right now still existing in the Northeast. His company is still existing. It changed into a lot of hands, but that Edison that became $40 billion company in the Northeast, and they provide the power to a lot of states. In the Johnson and Johnson is a $400 billion company. So there's transformation from 1885. That's patches they were selling like now we can see Manju is going to be trillionaire soon with the $400 billion with the patch, starting patch. That's what they did. Johnson and Johnson started the patch, in fact. So they're now $400 billion company, Johnson and Johnson, Robert Woodson Foundation. You should apply for the grant with their foundation. They will connect with you. They understand your journey very well. But that is a story of these. The story of these three women, extraordinary journey from this woman took an arduous journey to the seas of passing the oceans, coming here and when going back to their countries and serve the communities. It's an extraordinary journey that we have to remember what these people go through. Doctors, particularly, this is it's not a technology just came in. That's why I love science, because that is an iconic photo in 1885. We don't have too many pictures because what they went through is really nothing but hats off. Even now, even women, it's not easy for them. Even now, is a lot of things are still they have to raise children. Like Manju, she has two daughters, and it's like a lot of work. That's we have to really acknowledge that journey of this into the medical sciences. Thank you for watching, and let me bring back. Manju back to the stage. Okay. Thank you all. You can You can buy T-shirts from me. That Manju Joshi T-shirt is available. I will play that. You can buy the T-shirts. Welcome back, Manju. Tell me, what do you think of it?
Thank you so much for that. I know I've seen that photo and I've just read a small blurb, but I had no idea about all that history. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's such a great reminder. I mean, like, we all could only be doing these things because of people like those three who are brave enough to make that journey, like you said, and even, it made me think about my own parents and what they've had to go through, to give me this opportunity. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So anyway, I'm glad you. So I wanted to ask you. This is your journey. Is not that even though centuries passed, your journey is still. You can connect with the same journey in that sense. You doing the patch and you're going through the raising funds, like what they went through. You see, tell us a little bit about your journey. What you're doing with the temple. What is the plans for you? How you want to are you selling them right now, the patches? They're
Yes.
available on your website.
Yes, they're available on our website,
I'm going to
thimblehealth.
put your website is let me do that. Just yeah, let me.
Also, for some reason, I can't see you anymore. I only
Yeah,
see.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Tim, Timble.com, right?
thimblehealth.com.
Timblehealth.com. Okay, you can do that. You can. Okay, so Timblehealth.com is very easy to remember anyway. Um, I think I did right. Okay, you see in the bottom, did I did that right?
I think
Did
there
I,
are just a couple
there-
letters mixed up, but
okay, just let me
oh,
edit. You
yes.
can edit yourself. Actually, you can edit yourself. You can. There's three dots on the left side. I don't know whether you have it or not.
Oh,
But
yeah, I
you can,
see it now.
yeah,
Thank
you
you.
have
Oh,
it.
yeah, good. I should have done that a long time ago. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah. Maybe I need to write them. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay.
you got it. And you can just edit that one. It's not.
How's that?
Okay. Timbula. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you for helping me. Getting older, I can't see anymore. Like they. So, Manju, that Timble Health is that yours now the product is. So, what is made of this product? What are the ingredients? Secret ingredients you have?
Yeah, so the Recover Patch is what we have available now because we wanted to get products out to consumers. We're the ones who are feeling the problem most acutely, and I wanted to make sure people had access as soon as possible. So we're selling on our website, and the Prepare Patch, which is the one for before, should hopefully be ready later this spring. And you asked about what my hope is, and I hope that we kind of create a new standard of care for all needle procedures. Your presentation was so great, and it's so I think it's so important to think about how far we've come in such a short time. Like, anesthesia itself was only invented in the 1840s, and when you think about when all of these drugs came up, it's like we have to keep moving the ball forward. And so yeah, I hope we can just kind
Yeah,
of have
yeah.
passion about needle procedures and offer people solutions. And so I think the way we're really going to do that, yes, will be available for people to buy, but I really hope that this is something that is distributed, by insurers and by hospital systems, because it should be kind of part of the standard of care
Yeah.
ultimately.
They should be. You need a bigger organization to buy, and then also you need to remind the story of the how the Johnson started the patch.
Yeah, and actually, it's so interesting because I went to I think it was the National History Museum in Washington D.C., and they had the original, Band-Aids, and it was just it's fascinating because their go-to-market strategy ended up very different than they initially thought. I think if I remember correctly, it started out as kind of like a wartime, um, invention, and then they thought, oh, well, maybe consumers would want this, and so they kind of went the consumer route. So it's actually really fascinating. So we'll see where how we end up.
Thank you so much, the Manju. Thank you for coming on my podcast. It is really truly an honor and a privilege. So thank you so much.
Pleasure is all mine. Honor is all mine. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for sharing all these fascinating topics with people. Like you're really bringing to light some important things. So thank you.
Thank you. So stay there in a minute. I will talk with you after this show, if you don't mind. Just let me This is thank you all. Good night. It is the first show of the live show that I did on the first one. Thank you all. Manju is an excellent guest. So that is you can buy the.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it